Hello, welcome back to my channel. It's actually really nice outside today. I just got home from the gym, made some eggs, took a shower, washed my hair, and now I'm cozy on my couch, ready to talk about a topic that people usually avoid. And before I even get into it, let me set the tone. If you're watching this just to get defensive, lash out, or twist my words, this channel is not for you. This is not a channel where I attack any race, ethnicity, or group of people. This is a channel where I talk about my experiences, my truth. And I don't believe you should be angry at someone for telling the truth about what they've lived. When I moved to America, one of the first things I had to learn was that I'm Black here. And even though I'm proudly Nigerian, proudly African, in America, I'm still seen as Black first. And I had to adjust to that reality. And I also want to say this clearly. If you're an African immigrant moving to America or any Western country, please educate yourself on Black Americans, their history, their culture, their struggles, their contributions. I did that. I made the effort because I didn't want to be ignorant and I wanted to understand the world I was stepping into. But I'm also going to be honest. I've experienced passive aggression, judgment, and even bullying from Black Americans too, especially when they realize I can't relate to certain struggles in the way they expect. Sometimes people assume you think you're better than them, when that's not even what's happening. And what I learned is this: you have to be observant. You have to read social cues. You have to listen more than you speak. Because in America, not everyone who smiles at you is safe. And that applies to every race, every ethnicity, every group. And I had to learn the hard way that just because someone is Black, whether Black American, Black African, or even another immigrant, does not automatically mean they like you, support you, or have your best interest at heart. I'm always polite, but I pay attention. So with that said, let's get into today's video. The African Immigrant They Respect, but Secretly Resent. I put African in the title of this video, but if I am being honest, I probably should have been more specific and said Nigerian, because Africa is a continent, not a country, and no two Africans are the same. Even within Nigeria, no two Nigerians are the same. You can meet two Nigerians and they come from completely different ethnic groups, different communities, different dialects, different customs, different lifestyles. There is a general Nigerian culture that many of us understand, but when you look closely, it is not one story, it is many stories. So everything I am saying in this video is from my own perspective, from what I have observed, and from what I have lived. Now, I want to talk about something I noticed as an immigrant. I moved to the United States about 9 years ago. I was 16 at the time. And like many immigrants, I came here with a certain innocence, a certain hunger, a certain excitement. I was driven. I wanted to build a life for myself. I wanted independence. I wanted a career. I wanted to live on my own terms. But what I was not prepared for were the subtle mind games that people play when they meet an immigrant. And let me say this clearly. Westerners of all races do this. Even other immigrants do this. But Americans have mastered a special type of niceness, the kind that smiles at you while quietly studying you. So, the questions sound innocent. They sound friendly, but they're not always innocent. Sometimes it's assessment, and other times it's surveillance. And sometimes it is people trying to figure out who you are, what you have, what you lack, and where you fall in the social hierarchy. And if you are an immigrant, especially an immigrant trying to succeed in corporate spaces, you need to understand this early. Be careful what you share, what you reveal, and how quickly you let people into your personal life. Because some people are not gathering information because they like you. They are gathering information because they want to know how to treat you, or worse, how to exploit you. I remember when I got my first job after undergrad. I was so excited. I had imagined that moment for years. I had daydreamed about it since I was a little girl. I used to imagine myself walking into high-rise buildings, dressed well, carrying my bag, wearing my red bottoms, red lipstick, curls fluffed out, feeling like I belonged. I was excited to finally become the career woman I always pictured in my head. And the director who hired me was an older white woman. She seemed impressed by my cover letter. She kept complimenting the way I wrote. "Oh, you write so well, blah, blah, blah." And she started asking me questions about my background, about my family, about my life. And at first, I thought she was just being personable. I thought it was normal. I thought she was just trying to connect. But then, her questions started becoming intrusive. This same older woman, an executive, wanted to come to my apartment complex and work out with me. After I casually mentioned that I loved working out and that my building had a gym. And I remember getting this weird feeling. Something felt off. Because why would an older executive want to do that with me? A young girl, young enough to be her daughter. Some people might say, "Oh, maybe she was just lonely." No. This woman was married, had 2 kids, and from what she shared, she had an active social life. Friends, events, all of it. And this is where my upbringing kicked in. Let me tell you something about my parents. My parents are highly accomplished, successful, and growing up, they had employees working for them. They were kind, they were generous, they treated their workers with dignity. But there was always a distance, a respectful distance. I never saw my parents fraternizing with employees beyond professional pleasantries. They would give gifts when someone had a baby, lost a loved one, got married, things like that. They would support people, but I never saw them hanging out. No, let's go to the gym together. No, let's come over. No casual closeness. So, in my mind, my business instincts were screaming red flags. Because business rule number 1 is this: if you're a boss, an employee, a colleague, create distance. Not coldness, distance. Because distance protects you. And unless you leave that workplace and observe over time that someone is genuinely safe, you don't cross that boundary. But with this executive, I didn't have the emotional boundaries to shut it down professionally. And instead of speaking up, I did what many girls raised like me do. I shut down. And it is interesting because when I was younger, I went through a period where I struggled with mutism. So, shutting down was something my body already knew how to do. And shortly after that, I noticed that personal information I had mentioned in what I thought was a casual conversation had spread around the office. It moved quickly. And then during the lunch they organized for new hires, the CEO, a white man, started his own round of questioning. And that is when I realized something. Some of these questions are not innocent. They are not just conversation. They are a way of locating you, a way of placing you, a way of deciding what kind of immigrant you are. Because one thing I have observed, especially with non-Black Westerners, is that there are certain questions they ask immigrants to quietly measure your class. They want to know where you fall in the hierarchy. And hierarchy is a major obsession in America. Nigeria also has a classism problem. That is the truth. And I am not going to pretend I have not benefited from it in certain ways. But in America, people are often more subtle about it. They pretend class does not matter, while silently organizing their entire lives around it. Let me tell you something I've observed about America. Everybody understands hierarchy here, silently. There is an unspoken agreement that white people sit at the top. No debates, no disruption about that. It's almost treated like the natural order. And then everyone else is fighting for second place, third place. Every ethnic group is competing for proximity to that top spot. But here's what people won't say out loud. There is also a quiet, collective agreement about who belongs at the bottom. And a lot of the time, that bottom spot is reserved for Africans. Not North Africans, not East Africans. Africans, especially the ones who look African. In fact, looking African is still used as an insult in ways people pretend not to notice. I've had people act confused when I proudly say I'm West African, Nigerian. Some don't believe it and say, "Oh, you don't look African," like I'm supposed to be proud or rejoice. Weird. Others communicate it in the passive-aggressive, polite American way, where they smile in your face, but still make sure you understand what they are trying to say. So, they ask questions that look harmless. Where do you live? What does your family do? What brought you here? What neighborhood are you from? What school did you go to? Do you have siblings? What do your parents do? Are you married? Are you dating? And if you are not paying attention, you will answer these questions innocently. But sometimes, those answers determine how people treat you moving forward, how much respect they give you, how much access they give you, whether they see you as competition, as someone they can control, and as someone they can exploit. And I want to say something that may sound harsh, but it is a reality. Sometimes people are not asking these questions because they care about you. They are asking because they want to know what box to put you in. And once they put you in that box, they treat you according to that box. Now here is the part people do not like to talk about. The type of African immigrant or Nigerian immigrant that triggers some Westerners is not always the struggling immigrant. It is not always the immigrant who looks desperate. It is not always the immigrant who is begging for acceptance. No, sometimes the immigrant that triggers them is the immigrant they cannot pity, because pity is comfortable. Pity allows someone to feel superior without saying it out loud. And pity is one of the most socially acceptable forms of disrespect. Many people are comfortable with Africans as long as Africans remain in the category of someone who needs saving. This is why the world loves the image of the starving African child on a flyer. It reinforces a narrative. It keeps people psychologically comfortable. So when you show up as an African immigrant and you don't fit that narrative, people don't really know what to do with you. When you show up polished, confident, educated, well-spoken, not easily impressed, not overly grateful, not begging for approval, not eager to shrink yourself, not eager to play small, you confuse people. And sometimes you offend them without even trying. Because your existence challenges the version of Africa they have been using to feel better about themselves. But it is not only the privileged African immigrant that triggers people. There is another type. The African immigrant who came with nothing. The one who arrived with no connections, no safety net, no family wealth, no shortcuts. The one who worked 2 jobs, 3 jobs. The one who took the bus at 5 a.m. The one who went to school at night. The one who sacrificed sleep. The one who struggled quietly. The one who got it out of the mud. The one who climbed. Because there is something that unsettles people when they watch someone come from far away and still rise. Because in their mind, this is their land, their system, their country. So it creates a silent resentment, almost like, how dare you? We have been toiling here for years. We are the ones who were born here. We are the ones who deserve the opportunities. How dare you come from somewhere else and still make something out of yourself? And you will feel it in subtle ways. The energy changes, the friendliness disappears, the support dries up, the comments start, the passive aggression starts, and sometimes it becomes direct. Go back to your country. But here is the part people do not want to admit. A lot of African countries did not become what they are in isolation. They became what they are through centuries of outside interference, through exploitation, foreign influence, extraction of resources, and through systems that benefited the West for a very long time. And yes, we have our own selfish leaders. We have corruption. We have internal problems. That is true. But it is also true that Western powers have benefited from Africa in ways most people do not want to talk about. So when Africans migrate, when Africans come abroad looking for opportunity, looking for stability, looking for a better life, there is a deeper context behind that. In many ways, Africans are not just coming to take. Africans are coming to participate in a world that has been connected for a long time. A world where wealth has been moving in one direction for centuries. So if an African decides to come here and build a life, to get their own piece of the pie, why is that suddenly a crime? Why is it a problem? Why do people find it offensive? Well, here's what I think. Some people do not hate immigrants because immigrants are lazy. They hate immigrants because immigrants are ambitious, because immigrants are hungry, because immigrants do not come here to beg forever. They come here to rise. And watching someone rise triggers something dark in people, especially when they believe you were not supposed to have access. Now let me add another layer. In the West, especially in corporate environments, retaliation is quiet. It is subtle, strategic, and even disguised as professionalism. They will laugh with you, hug you, bring you lunch, smile in your face, celebrate your birthday. And while they are doing that, they are quietly influencing how other people see you, quietly poisoning your reputation, blocking your opportunities, reshaping the narrative around you, so that when the time comes for you to be promoted, people suddenly feel unsure about you, and they cannot even explain why. Some people will also try to destabilize you psychologically. They will ask you insulting questions, not because they believe you are stupid, but because they want to provoke you. They want to see how you react, if you will become emotional, and if they can pull you out of your character. So, they ask questions like, do you have lions in your backyard? Do you live next to monkeys? Do you have electricity? And you are sitting there thinking, this person is educated, this person is well-read, this person has traveled, so why are they speaking like they've never left their mother's kitchen? It is because it is not ignorance, it is a power play. You have triggered them, and now they want to trigger you back. I experienced something similar early in my corporate life. I had a manager who, after I casually shared parts of my background, private schools, growing up with nannies, things like that, I noticed her behavior towards me shifted, and not in a good way. I'm someone who's very reflective, and honestly, I can also be hypervigilant because of the bullying I experienced growing up. So I pick up on body language quickly. I notice shifts. I notice energy. And in that moment, I didn't think I said anything crazy. Everyone on the team was sharing personal details, so I assumed it was safe. Wrong. But I also owe that naivety to the innocence of a young, socially unaware mind. I didn't understand the unspoken rules yet, because after that meeting, she started asking me strange questions about my family. Not casual questions, specific questions. Questions that made me realize she had looked me up. Because there's no way you would know certain things unless you were digging. And I remember thinking, why would she do that? Like, why is she so invested in me? Why is she searching for my background like you're conducting an investigation? And from that moment, I started protecting myself differently. I started keeping our conversations brief, stopped oversharing, and redirected personal conversations back to her. If she wanted small talk, it would be about her life, her hobbies, or neutral topics like the weather. Because in corporate spaces, small talk is necessary. Small talk is how people build trust. It is how people quickly decide if they like you. But small talk can also be how people gather information, so you need to be intentional about what you offer. And I also noticed something else. This manager was competitive, in subtle ways. She would look me up and down, then make strange comments about her own body, comparing herself to me. And it was so inappropriate, especially at work, and especially because she was older than me. Some people don't know how to relate to you normally when they feel threatened. They start trying to reduce you, humble you, or try to create insecurity in you. Because insecurity makes you easier to control. If someone is digging into your personal life, looking up your family, trying to understand your background in an obsessive way, that is not admiration. That is surveillance. And it is a big sign that you are dealing with someone who is not safe. So, here's what I'll say. If you are an immigrant, protect yourself. I'm not asking you to be paranoid or rude. I'm asking you to be wise and intentional about what you share with people, especially in corporate spaces where everyone is competing quietly. You don't have to reveal your entire background to people who have not earned your trust. You don't have to prove anything, explain your life, or give people ammunition. Let them know you are competent, capable, and professional. But do not confuse friendliness with safety. Because the truth is, there are people who are comfortable with immigrants as long as immigrants remain beneath them. But the moment you show up as an immigrant who belongs, an immigrant who is not begging, an immigrant who has options, you become a different type of problem. And that is when respect can quietly turn into resentment. And if you have experienced this, I want you to know you are not imagining it. You are not crazy. You are seeing something many people are too naive to notice. And in future videos, I'm going to talk more about this. How to protect yourself in corporate spaces. How to handle intrusive questions. How to recognize subtle sabotage. And how to move strategically as an immigrant without losing yourself. Thank you for listening. I will see you in the next video. Bye.